Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's power session. I am back home after 25 days out of town in South Dakota and Wyoming and everything else. It was a great trip, but I am super happy to be back here at the office, back here with all of you at home base. So hope your summer is going well. Excited to be with you today. We're going to be talking about something that applies to a lot of our clients. In fact, it probably applies to all of our clients who are trying to build teams or work with other people. We're going to be specifically talking about building teams within a volunteer army construct. This is usually a very entrepreneurial construct. And what we mean by volunteer army is anytime you're doing work with people that you don't necessarily sign their paychecks, there isn't a heavy undertone of compliance involved. And by compliance, we talk about like Gallup's study from a few years ago where they found out that almost 80% of people in America hold their job purely for the benefits, not because they are mission driven or passionate about what they're doing. So that was quite telling in a lot of ways. And a volunteer army, a lot of the buffers, a lot of the compensations that we get to experience when, for those of us who have been in management or leadership positions in, say, corporate America, those get removed, which is a tremendous upside, but can be tremendously frustrating on the downside as well if we don't understand how to really connect with people. So when we're looking to run a volunteer army, when we're looking to build a successful business with people who are not compliant to us, meaning they don't work for us, we're going to want to understand those rules. We're going to want to understand how to get what we want from them. And I'll share with you the keys for doing that in today's power session. So let's get started. Oh, it is good to be back with all of you for today's power session. I'm back at home base today here in Salt Lake City. Excited to be with you to talk about building volunteer armies, building collaboration and networks with people where when they perform better, it serves you. It helps you get what you want, but not in a compliance environment. Okay. Now, what we're going to talk about today can certainly be applied if you're in a formal job situation or you're a manager in a traditional company and people work for you, you're responsible for their paychecks. They have some fear or concern of getting fired if they don't perform well. This would certainly apply to you, but I find that entrepreneurs are typically a little bit more motivated to dive in because entrepreneurs are generally working with other entrepreneurs, meaning I don't have to have you to succeed. But I certainly want you to be able to succeed more, to be able to create better results. And we want to talk about what are the things that apply when building a volunteer army. How do we get what we want from other people? This is an age-old question in being able to create greater levels of success. In being able to build a successful home-based business is probably one of the areas where it is most potent, where you can't threaten someone to lose their job. You know, we can talk about the fear of losing their rank or getting less income or whatever the case may be. But many people in part-time entrepreneurial endeavors don't have the same drive of compliance, the same drive of fear that they would if they were working a job. Whereas Gallup told us years ago, where 80% of people are working that job just to get the benefits, the health, the dental, the vision, those types of benefits, the 401k. And entrepreneurs typically, especially in home-based businesses, are not providing those things. And so it provides a massive upside to not be working under the constraints of compliance, not to be working under the constraints of human resources. So the sky is the limit. However, it does open up some challenges, some tremendous challenges, where we can't feel like we can come down on people without being worried about it tanking their morale. And then they may quit the business because there wasn't enough on the line, or we get frustrated with people talking more about what they want to create than actually creating it. We get frustrated with chasing after the never-ending frustration of potential. This person has so much potential. We use all these different indicators, all these different things to often find ourselves way more frustrated than we need to be. Because if we're working with a volunteer army, meaning they don't have to have us to be successful, and technically we don't have to have them, but usually from our position down, it feels like it. Oh, if they would just do this, then I would be able to do this, and it would totally take care of them too, but I'd finally be at this level. I'd finally be less frustrated with that. Okay? We want to get down to what really solves this problem. And it comes down to a really, really frustratingly simple equation. If you know people that work with volunteer armies, if you know people in home-based businesses, entrepreneurs that work with other entrepreneurs, tag them, share this session today, because this cannot be talked about enough. It is so simple that we seem to dismiss it or seem to assume that we understand it, that we don't take the work to wrestle with it and actually apply it. That's something we do often in our lives. We find something that's simple, and so we assume we conceptually get it, so we don't put in the grit, we don't put in the time, we don't put in the energy and the consistency to take it from the conceptual through the however long it might take through the experiential to turn it into a habit. That's what we definitely want to pay attention to this. So here is the key. I'll give you the punchline first, and then we'll work through 3 keys for making sure that you finally start to get traction with this principle. This principle that is not new, that has been around for thousands of years, and has been the same principle that drives cooperation, collaboration, and massive success, yet seems to be the least well-executed principle in our arsenal of working with other people. And it is this: if you want to get what you want, all you have to do is give other people what they want. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you want to get what you want, just give them what they want. Super simple. Now, are there nuances? Are there qualifiers? Yes, and we'll talk about a few of them today. But if you wake up every morning and go, how can I, you can't just wake up and go, how can I give people what they want? That's a really poor assumption. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's where most people go wrong. Okay? They either don't think about this equation at all, assume it, take it for granted, okay? Or they just jump right to, okay, they want this, I'll give them that. Well, it's a little bit more intentional than that, and we're going to talk about that today. But really, at the end of the day, it is give others what they want, and you will get what you want. That is a universal, undeniable principle. That is how it has always been. That is how it will always be. This is one of the most pivotal principles you can ever learn in your business and what you're trying to create. Whether you're in a tech business, or you're in sales or recruiting, or you're in the medical field, or whatever it is, other people are involved. And the more collaborative and the more productive, the more supportive they are, the more successful you are, regardless of your industry, regardless of what you do. So become a master of not just giving people what they want, but being able to find out what they want. That is key. That is the number one key to being able to do this. Number one is not just going out and giving people what you think they want. Number one is being able to learn how to discover what it is they actually want. Because we've got a lot of different factors that make that challenging. The first one is that a lot of us think that we want things we don't actually want. Okay, think of something you wanted in 2019 or so far in 2020 that you haven't done, you haven't accomplished yet. You wanted to lose 20 pounds. You wanted to make $2,000 more. You wanted to wake up earlier in the morning. You wanted a better relationship with your kids. Well, if it didn't happen, it's not what you really wanted. Not in a connected enough way to be able to take the baby steps to actually accomplish it and secure it and be able to sustain it. You may have conceptually wanted it. It may have made sense, logically wanted it, but I'm talking about an intrinsic desire to accomplish it with the extrinsic and systemic clarity to be able to pull it off. So what we want to understand is there are many of us that have been taught the things we're supposed to want. This is something that you'll want to master with others, that you'll master by being able to explore in yourself. What are the things that you want in life that you want because it's been years and years of being taught it's what you were supposed to want? I'm not saying everything you're going to discover in this closet is bad, but there might be a couple in there that are really sabotaging you, that are really weighing you down. Okay, we talked in last week's power session about taking off on the runway, and the key to doing that is increasing velocity and reducing drag. I'm asking you to go into this compartment of what you want and find the things that you're supposed to want, that you actually do want, so you can turn up the velocity on them, but also find some of the things that are in there, because I guarantee you they are. Find the things that are in there that you are supposed to want, that you don't actually want, that are creating drag. That's how we're going to take off on this runway. What are the things that you want, that you are supposed to want, that you don't really want? Those are some of the most destructive when you try to apply this incredibly simple, potent, and powerful principle for success of give people what they want and you'll get what you want. If you give people what they're supposed to want, then you're going to get what you're supposed to want, and it's probably not going to be what you actually want. If you give people what you think they want and you're wrong, they're going to give you what they think you want and will probably be wrong. Isn't it amazing how that lines up? How that reciprocates to itself? So if you haven't been getting what you want from other people, but you think you've been giving them what they want, then you've probably been wrong about what they actually want. And that's a direct contributing factor to them being wrong about what they think you want. Our relationships with each other are that simple. That's karma. That's reciprocal experience. That's the law of attraction, which continues to prove itself day in and day out, whether you believe it or not. Whether you believe in gravity or not, it continues to prove itself out. Whether you believe in physics and other things, it continues to prove itself out. So if you give what you think someone wants and you're wrong, you're probably going to get from them what they think you want, and they will probably be wrong, because that's what we do. We give other people what we get. Okay? So the first thing we're going to want to do is be clear about the differences between what we truly want and what we have been taught we're supposed to want. I'm not saying you go into that compartment skeptical that everything in there that you're supposed to want is stuff you don't actually want. No, most of you will likely only find a few things, but they will be critical things that you want that are just because you're supposed to want them. Okay? Number two is understanding that people will usually only share with you what they want that they think is safe to want. Okay? If I'm going to a car dealership that I'm worried will swindle me for a big price and not take care of me, and I'm worried that if I tell them how much I want that car, that I lose my leverage to try and get the cheapest price for that car, I'm only going to share what I feel is safe to want. And I'm going to share it in such a way that I feel safe about sharing it. So rather than being like, I want that car, as I've done my research, it's the most incredible car in the world. Oh my gosh, tell me how I can get in it. I'm probably not going to feel that safe. I'm probably going to walk up and be like, well, I don't know. That one looks interesting. Let's go check that one. And I'll play it safe, which is likely going to send signals that I may or may not want that. Okay, it's going to mix up the simplicity of this exchange. So when you are working with a volunteer army, when you are working with other people, understand that what they are sharing with you, especially early on, in a lot of cases, is A, mixed with what they're supposed to want, okay, which means it's not going to be a pure exchange, and B is also mixed with what they feel like is safe to want with you. And those can create all kinds of manipulations. if I look at you with some sort of esteem, like you're kind of a hero, like, wow, oh, you're in such and such business and you're such and such rank, and that's amazing. Even if you don't feel that you have that kind of sense of celebrity, okay? You may present yourself on social media as such, okay? I run into this at times, and it's shocking to me. People are like, oh my gosh, like I got a message from Paul Blanchard. And every time I get a response like that, it's like, whoa, really? Like that's weird to me that I'm received that way. But I've got to understand that if I'm in a position of authority, of any kind of authority or any kind of esteem from people, that it is going to turn up the volume on what they're supposed to want and what they feel like is safe to want. Now, if I'm a part of a particular organization that I'm trying to help them get to a certain rank, then not only are they going to share that they want that higher rank because they're supposed to, but also that it's safe to, because that's what we talk about all the time. That may not be what we feel is the most important thing, but if that's what gets talked about, that's what gets recognized, that's what gets the attention, that's what gets the energy, then they're going to feel like that's what they're supposed to want, that's what they're safe to want, and they'll say whatever they need to say to you to demonstrate that they want that. But then do they do the work to get it? Or even more so, are you foolish enough to drive them to it without stopping to check in with what they really want? And sometimes it might just be checking in with how soon they want it or what they're willing to do to get it. I want this, but I'm willing to do this. Guess where you mentor them from where they're willing to do. You don't need to shoot their dream out of the sky, but you definitely don't want to go into it just taking for granted that they said they wanted this, but did you really get to the heart of what they're willing to do about it? That's how we're able to shed the supposed tos and the safe to wants, is finding out what they're really willing to do about it. And a great measure of what they're really willing to do about it is the pain they are experiencing around it. Now, if someone comes to you and they already have a pedigree of success, they already have a track record of success of execution, accomplishment, and confidence, execution, accomplishment, and confidence. And they've demonstrated that. And I don't mean 5 years ago. I mean, like, they're on that path and they tell you, I want this, then that's someone you can probably succinctly fall in line with. But those are unicorns. Those type of runners, as I've heard them called in many different companies, are unicorns. They are so rare. They're awesome. They're out there. Definitely don't want to miss them if they cross your plate, okay? But you definitely don't want to plan on everyone being that. We want to step in to find out what they really want. And to do that, we need to find out what's actually important to them. And to do that, we've got to bring their walls of resistance down. And the only way to bring someone's walls of resistance down is to be safe. What's amazing is if you show up as safe, then they can feel safe enough to share what it is they really want. And what you'll often experience is to be able to explore, experiment with what they really want. Because if you jump in there and go, oh, yep, that's what they want. I got it. I figured it out. Which so many of us on this call right now have such active minds that we can figure people out really fast. Oh, yep, that's what they want. That's what they're willing to do. No, face value. We have not deconstructed what their supposed tos are, what their safety checks are, because we can only do that with patience. We can only do that by stepping into their world and bringing their wall down. Making this investment up front is critical to find out what someone really wants. What they really want, not what they're supposed to want, not what they're sharing with you because it's safe to share what they want, only this much or this part of it. Because you mix those two together and you're going to get a very distorted signal. And then if you have a distorted signal and you go, oh, this is what they want, but it's not because it's compromised by supposed tos and safety mechanisms. And we go and deliver this to them and then they bring it into their life and it's not what they really wanted. Well, then they're not going to be able to then reciprocate and give you what you really wanted. What you wanted in terms of their activity, in terms of their sacrifice, in terms of their passion. We want to clear the signals. We want to be able to connect with who they really are, what they really want, and what we really want to provide to them to get what we really want. So it's a simple principle, but we've made the application of it so complicated that we're usually not actually working with what the other person really wants. We're working with a distorted version of it. And so no wonder we're getting distorted results and frustrating results, because we're not putting the time up front. We're just not. We're in such a hurry to figure it out. We're in such a hurry to get the answers. We're in such a hurry that they're so excited, so let's just ride the wave of their excitement. And then we wonder why we ran out of momentum. We wonder why we ran out of oomph. Because it was a wave. It was an impulse. It wasn't their heartbeat. You can get to someone's excitement and enthusiasm pretty easily, but if you can get to their heartbeat, something that will always be there as long as they're alive, and you can be able to find the rhythm of that heartbeat and what they really want, you can build a massively successful volunteer army. Okay? So that's number one, which is the one we spent the most time on today. Okay? Because it's the most important one. Is if you're going to really trust this powerful principle of success of give people what they want to get what you want, then you're going to need to become an expert at discovering what they really want and get rid of the supposed tos and the walls of resistance and what's safe to share, so that they don't expose themselves, to an unnecessary level of vulnerability. Okay? We want to understand a couple of other things as well. Number two is, what are you willing to give to get it? You're going to want to be clear about your sacrifices, your boundaries. I want this from people, but you want to be equally clear about what you're willing to give to get that. And too often, those don't add up. I'm willing to give this to get this. When we want those to be balanced. We want to really be able to step back and assess what I really want from people, but am I really willing to give enough to get that? I really want enough people in my business so that I don't have to deal with annoying people anymore, is not going to counterbalance and work with being able to create a thriving, successful business. We'll want to be able to engage, and we'll want to be able to balance the weight of our exchange. Otherwise, it's going to tip us off center. It's going to distort the process. So don't be afraid to be clear about what you're actually willing to give. Not what you're willing to give for a time. What are you willing to give? Period. Are you willing to give trust to get trust? Are you willing to give commitment to get commitment? Are you willing to give love to get love? Are you willing to give money to get money? Can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are like, oh, I don't know if I can invest in your coaching. Well, what's your number one objection? People can't afford it. Oh, shocker. You want people to give you an investment before you'll give an investment. It doesn't work that way. If you want abundance in your life, you've got to give abundantly and get clear about where that level is for you. But don't expect abundance here if you're only giving abundance here. Don't expect others to sacrifice here if you're only sacrificing here. That's what we want to understand in terms of giving to people what they want to be able to get what we want, is be clear about what you're actually willing to give to get it. Make sure that's a balanced equity in that position. Number three, equally invest in both wants. Most people that suck at this are either totally focused on what other people want or totally focused on what they want. Without balance with both, you will not be able to successfully apply this principle. Anytime you're not getting what you want from people, okay, you are probably more focused on what they want or more focused on what you want, rather than equally collaboratively partnering with both. Seeing the way that what you want fits into what they want. All the more reason to be clearer with number one about how to discover what they really want, while at the same time discovering what you actually want. See, this is a very simple principle, but you can see the way we make it so complex and so messy. Because if we can't clearly see what they want, okay, then we're not going to be able to give them that. And if we can't give them what they really want, they're not going to be able to clearly give us what we want. And then the whole purpose of collaborating with other people and no one gets to the top alone, and success comes from serving the masses and finding the many to find the few and whatever else you've heard, it all comes down to this particular principle. So get clearer about discovering what people really want. Understand the ways that disguises itself from supposed to's and safety mechanisms, walls of resistance. Then also let's make sure we step back and understand what we're willing to do to get it. Because if we're not willing to do everything to get it, that may not mean we won't get it. That just means we won't get it as fast as we thought. Sometimes that just means putting it out a little longer. Og Mandino talked about that on the scrolls, that even with childish swipes, you can drop even the biggest tree in the forest. Paraphrasing, okay? So sometimes it's not a matter of, well, I'm only willing to do this, but that doesn't mean you now exclude yourself from getting it. It just means you get to not expect it in 2 months or in 30 days. So keep in mind with that adjustment as well. And then number 3, equally invest in both wants. Okay? A lot of very service-driven leaders, heart-driven leaders, your challenge is focusing more on what someone else wants and denying what it is that you want and not being able to have a clear evaluation of both. Because if you haven't removed your own supposed to's, your own safe to wants, you're going to have a hard time being able to find out what's behind other people's supposed to's and safe to wants and walls of resistance. And there will never be a clean and clear exchange. Last piece I want to share, because this is really important for relationships, period, let alone in businesses. And that is that giving what other people don't want only works on weak or vulnerable people. And if you're okay with manipulating weak or vulnerable people, then please don't ever come back to another power session again. If someone wants to be loved, which is universal, everyone wants to be loved. Some of us have created conceptual justifications and rationalizations that can be dark or withdrawn or whatever, but every human being is built to want to be loved. Every human being is built to want to be recognized. Every human being is built to want to be supported. Okay, every human being is built to want to be more. Okay, so we want to understand this stuff, but if you give someone something they don't want to get what you want from them, you will be building a weak business, a weak mission, because you will have taken advantage of weak people, and we are not okay with that. So if you've given your husband the cold shoulder, hoping that he'll be warmer to you, it doesn't work that way. If you've yelled at someone or gotten frustrated and angry at someone for not doing what you wanted, but you were sitting there waiting that once they do what you want, then you'll give them the praise, then you'll give them the recognition. Then we'll want to reconsider this evaluation. As we start to explore the simplicity of it, it also exposes the challenge of it. Because as human beings, we naturally withhold. We naturally wait. We naturally want to have proof before payment. When, as this law shows us, payment comes first. Then the proof is given. We give people what they want and we get what we want. And the only people that doesn't work with, or that you can go against the grain on that with, are weak and vulnerable people. We're not okay with that. We're not okay with you being so direct and so clear and kicking people's butts. I mean, like, see, that works. No, it works with weak and vulnerable people. Or it works longer with weak and vulnerable people. You know, sometimes depending on your esteem or your celebrity, it can work with a strong person, but very short term. We want to keep that in mind. Strip away all the complexities, get back to the simplicity of, if I can become an expert of discovering what someone really wants by bringing their walls of resistance down, getting past the supposed to's and the safe to shares, and get to the heart of their pain, their challenges, where they really live. The space where we find out just how similar we all are as human beings. That's where we want to get. We want to get to the space where we find out just how similar we are as human beings. Beyond preference, beyond personality, beyond whatever. To a depth of humanity that connects us all, you will be successful in any venture if you can do that. And it's always going to be messy. This isn't going to work perfectly with everybody. Not everybody will bring down their walls of resistance. Not everyone will get past the supposed tos and the safe to shares, no matter how expertly trained you are, no matter how sincere you are. But if you can be ready for just a few more than you would have otherwise, if you can secure someone's longevity, someone's connection in your business a little longer than it would have been otherwise, in many of your businesses, that's the difference of millions of dollars over the next 5, 10, 15 years. I would think that would probably be incentive enough for us to put just a little bit more of an investment up front when building a volunteer army or any team, to getting clearer about how to discover what they want, not just assuming what they want, which is huge, and then how to deliver it consistently. Because just like gravity, just like physics, if you'll do that, you will get in return. The clearer you are about what other people want, the more consistently you give it to them, the more clear and consistently you will receive what you want. It is that simple, but that's what makes it so hard. So let's work on the thought processes. Let's work on the patterns. Let's work on the assumptions that we make that are getting in our way for this. Let's clear that runway so that we can reduce the drag, increase the velocity, and take off into the air, into the sky, where it requires less effort to be able to sustain the same amount of speed, to be able to sustain the same amount of legacy and impact that we can have in this world by adding real value, not just perceived value, not distorted signals, with connecting with real human beings in a real way. If any of you are looking for ways to do that more intentionally, get in touch with our team. Take the Habit Finder assessment. Meet with my team. You get a complimentary one-time consultation on your assessment results. We've got an incredible program to help start putting in anchors in place for you to do this so you can shift. That's what it's called. We've got mastermind groups. We've got individual coaching. Okay? We've got opportunities for you to be able to demonstrate that if you want people to invest in you, that you are willing to invest in yourself. Same rule, same principle. Thanks for being here. Hope to get an opportunity to work with you at a deeper and more thorough level. Until then, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.